A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review today. Well, graphic novel review, I should say, so cheers to that. Now, this is a book I picked up primarily because of the fact that a movie is coming out this year of the titular character, a character that had a very, very brief cameo at the end of the James Gunn Superman film that came out last year, a movie which I've watched multiple times and absolutely loved it. Of course, I'm talking about Supergirl. Now, there have been many different iterations of Supergirl, both in the comic books and live action as well. My first experience with the character of Supergirl was, of course, the Helen Slater movie in the 80s, if I do say so myself. She was featured in Smallville, of course. She had the CW Supergirl TV show, which is absolutely fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it. But through the ages, she's undergone a lot of changes in the comic books themselves. Now, of course, the first Supergirl was in fact killed off in the Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline in the 80s. A very famous book by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. A book that I will be, of course, reading and reviewing in the future. Then, when you got around the time of the death of Superman, there was this weird version of Supergirl called Matrix, which was just like protoplasm, but was allied with Lex Luthor, who was masquerading as a hero at the time. A really weird time in comic books. Then you got the kind of new 52 version where the Batman Superman title had Kara, who, for those of you that don't know, and I probably should have said this before, she's Superman's cousin. Coming to Earth, and there was this whole weird story about Darkseid and Themyscira and all that kind of stuff, which it was actually a pretty good read, don't get me wrong. I think it was called World's Finest or something along those lines. This is a character that I never really cared for. I didn't give two shits about, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not saying she's not a fascinating character. I believe in most continuities, she was sent to look after baby Clark Kent, but her rocket ship got sucked into the Phantom Zone, and when she finally escaped, she's a little bit older. She was around 14 when Kal-El was a baby. So what I want to talk to you about today is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, written by Tom King. Now, Tom King did the run on Batman Rebirth. I believe his run went for about 85 or 86 issues. He set up the main villain as Bane. This is famously the comic book run where Bane kills Alfred. And those of you that are comic book fans know that Alfred is an integral part of the Bat family. No longer. As far as I know, he is still dead. I didn't read the entire Tom King run of Batman. I did, however, read up until about issue 45 to 50, whatever issue it was with the wedding of Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle. I did love the fact that he introduced in the very first story arc, he introduced some new characters. Gotham Girl and I believe Gotham Lad, their brother and sister. And he brought back Psycho Pirate, who is a fantastic and heavily underused villain in the DC universe. So I didn't read his full run. I would love to at some point. It seems very fascinating. But from reading this, Tom King is a fantastic comic book writer. And the reason I say that is because he utilizes a lot of lesser known tropes from comic book history, which I will get into in the spoiler-filled review of this book. Now, the primary reason that I read and want to review Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is because the new James Gunn film that is coming out, I believe, in June of this year is heavily inspired by this. We saw the character of Supergirl in the post-credit sequence of the latest Superman film. And knowing that this book was going to be an influence on the film, I thought I would really like to read this. Initial thoughts. Fucking fantastic. It is action-packed. It is quite heartbreaking in some parts. It made me laugh. It just hits in all the right places that you want a graphic novel to hit. It's 8 issues. I believe the initial run was 8 issues. And it really reinvents a character that, for all intents and purposes, and I'm really sorry to say this after reading this book, I initially thought of Supergirl as quite boring. I did love the CW TV show. Don't get me wrong. I thought that was fantastic. Helen Slater's film, although it wasn't the best movie, it was still a lot of fun. And I distinctly remember the last time I watched that film, I had gotten home from work over here in South Korea and I was incredibly sick. And I basically got home, I crawled into bed, I had that on I had the DVD, put it on, and I watched that movie. And then when it stopped, I couldn't be fucked changing DVDs. I just watched it again. And again. It's a fun film. It's a great film. And Helen Slater is absolutely fantastic in that movie. Those of you that don't know Helen Slater, if you've watched Seinfeld, she's Becky Gelke, the blonde in the blue. So there you go. Now, with that said, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This is the deluxe edition. I will be doing a full review, spoiler-filled. If you don't want to basically know the ins and outs of the story, this starts as a revenge adventure, but really becomes a moral lesson. So that's all you need to know. If you do want to know what happens, and if you do want to see the beautiful artwork, then just stick around for the next episode of
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
So this is the, deluxe edition of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, as I mentioned in the introduction. This is what the latest film will loosely be based on. Beautiful cover, beautiful art. So let's get this opened and started. Okay. So we have our introduction here. And then we have Chapter 1, Men, Women, and Dogs. This is the cover, of course. So we find out that this whole story is being narrated by a character. I'm just going to call her Ruthie. I'm probably mispronouncing the name, but that is okay. And she's talking about how her father, who is a rock farmer on this planet with a red sun, was murdered by a king's agent. We learn over the course of the story that the king's agents basically go out and try to find anyone who is speaking bad about the king of this planet. And if they are brutally murdered and cut down. This guy leaves his sword in the body of this farmer, and the farmer's daughter retrieves the sword and vows revenge. We find out that the farmer's daughter has many brothers, and they all talk a big game, but they are basically not willing to go and do anything. So Ruthie, being the youngest, decides she will. And her mother basically gives her blessing, and Ruthie heads off to track down this king's agent, this man named Krem of the Yellow Hills, on this weird beast-looking thing. She comes to a city, and she approaches this guy, and she basically says, if you track down and kill this king's agent for me, this Krem of the Yellow Hills, I will give you this sword. And this guy is like, you know what, I'll take your sword, but fuck you, and smacks her down. He is promptly stopped by Kara Zor-El. Of course, this is Supergirl, who is actually on this planet with a red sun because she has just turned 21. And for those of you that don't know Kryptonian law or history, the yellow sun gives them powers, and the red sun basically makes them human. So she's here on this planet with a red sun just to get fucking drunk on her 21st birthday. She gets the sword back. We see she's with Crypto, the super dog, and her and this guy fight, and she ends up besting him. And Ruthie takes her and basically cleans her up because she is drunk as shit, and she's kind of hungover, and she's barfing in the bucket. And Ruthie kind of asks her, can you find this guy for me? And initially she doesn't want to. She just wants to get back to her rocket ship. Ruthie follows her. And Kara is trying to explain, listen, like, revenge isn't a good thing. Now, everyone knows the story of Superman, Krypton exploding, and all of that stuff. And Kara kind of went through the same stuff, but she was a little bit older, so she could kind of understand the gravity of the situation. So she's trying to talk Ruthie out of it. And as she's doing so, she gets attacked by Krem, who shoots her with an arrow. And Crypto tries to save her, and Krem ends up shooting Crypto as well, and basically fucks off in her rocket ship while she is riddled with arrows and Crypto is dying. And that is the end of the first issue of this series. Now, already I love this for a few reasons. I think the art is fantastic. I think Kara is incredibly fleshed out by the end of this first issue. The only problem I have with it, don't fuck with Crypto. Don't fuck with Crypto, the super pup. I mean, there's been countless super animals. There's been Beppo, the super monkey, Comet, the super horse, Streaky, the super cat, Crypto, the super dog. Crypto was in the Superman movie. Best part of that movie, I might add. Do not shoot a dog with an arrow, you fuckwit. Okay, wounded, stranded, and impotent. So we get a lot of this narration that's basically this character Ruthie explaining the situation. I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm just going to say that they are on a ship. This dude keeps, this alien creature keeps putting his head on her shoulder while trying to sleep. Now, if you've ever been on a train or a plane and this happens, it is really fucking annoying. And she's trying to explain to him that she paid for a certain amount of space and blah, blah, blah. And we can see Kara is next to her. So what's basically happening is they have booked travel and they are off to find this guy who stole Kara's ship and who poisoned Crypto. And it's this long haul thing, and they go to these rest stops across the galaxy. This is really cool. Now, I have to say, anyone who has been on a long journey and every so often you stop at a rest area or something along that lines, this is the same thing, but across galaxies, which I thought was insanely funny. And they have a certain amount of time that they can kind of rest here. So Kara and Ruthie are enjoying some refreshments, and this alien guy is like, Superman arrested my two brothers, so I'm going to fuck him up, and then I'm going to fuck you up because you're Superman's cousin. And then Kara just beats the shit out of him. And they go on their merry way. They come across this anomaly in space, which is a dragon. And the captain calls Kara to the cockpit and says, listen, this thing eats metal. We're all going to die. And Kara's like, I've just been on a planet with a red sun. I've got no powers. I can't help you. And he's like, well, then we're all dead. And she's like, hold on a minute. And then she goes to the rest of the travelers and finds someone that has this drug, which is basically a version of kryptonite encased in lead that can give her her powers back for a short time, which she takes, and then she goes out and she defeats the dragon, which is kind of cool. And all the narration is Ruthie just going, holy shit, this woman is fucking awesome. And Supergirl has just finished doing her business, so to speak, and realizes that Ruthie, being a rock farmer, or the daughter of a rock farmer, never really bathed properly, so she very kindly shows her how to bathe. This is a really sentimental moment, and one that I think cements this version of Supergirl as being very compassionate, even though she's gone through a lot of tribulations. Now, you might be saying, well, Superman went through the same thing. His planet died and he got shut off, blah, blah, blah. He was a baby when Krypton was destroyed. Kara was 14 years old and basically had to watch everyone around her die. Now, it's not really explained if this version was in the Phantom Zone for however many years. But you've got to understand, this is a teenage girl who watched her planet die, her family die, her father sending her away just to save her and not himself, and she's just turned 21 and just wanted to spend that time getting fucking shit-faced. So, huge props to Tom King for that kind of mini story arc. And then they're on the Hall ferry again, and Ruthie is talking to this alien who's doing the same thing as the other one, and Kara just punches him in the fucking face so that they can all get some sleep, which I thought was pretty freaking funny. Then we get a little bit of backstory about what's happened to Crypto, how he's been poisoned. The Hunter's arrow has poison. They take him to a vet, and the vet is like, if you can get me the exact poison, I might be able to save him. But because it's the Red Sun, Crypto doesn't have any of his superpowers, and then you see this emaciated. Don't like that page. And that's when... So this is a bit of a flashback sequence. That's when Kara says to Ruthie, I will take up this quest with you. I hate that panel of Crypto. That cuts me up every time. Okay, modest, calm, and quiet. So they get to this planet, and this guy's kind of making a house of cards. This is apparently the planet where Krem is. And Supergirl confronts this guy like, you had him here. And then I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she blows the house of cards down and just storms off. They get a room in a bed and breakfast. Now, this planet is notable because they have two kind of races here, the blues and the purples. And they're initially treated very well, but then this one of the blues presumably just starts being a bitch. They look out over the city, wondering where Krem is. In the morning, they go to a diner for something to eat, and they are basically treated like shit. And they go around and they question everyone, and no one is giving them any information. That night, at their bed and breakfast, they are attacked. Supergirl manages, of course, to weather the blows. This is a planet, I believe, with a yellow sun, so Supergirl still has power. She goes to see the mayor, and the mayor is just being an absolute dick, so she smashes up his office. And then she wants to keep Ruthie safe. She says to Ruthie, listen, I can travel fast, just hold on to me. Teaches her what a piggyback ride is, and then goes flying. They end up in this area that they find the smash sign called Purple Town. Now, there were the blues and the purples, and it looks to Supergirl that all the purples have been killed. And that's the secret of this planet. She goes to confront the mayor. The story comes out that they had Krem of the Yellow Hills in custody. And these guys, these brigands, who go around committing atrocities, came to the planet and confronted the mayor, who is one of the blues, and Krem basically said, listen, this is how you get rid of them. You pay them what they want, and you let them destroy the purples. And because of that, the brigands free Krem and take him. And Ruthie is suddenly realizing how much fucking evil there is in the galaxy, and Kara tries to comfort her. This is an absolutely brutal issue of this series, because it's told from the point of view of someone that doesn't like they understand that there is evil out there because Krem killed her father. Like, she gets it. But it's her coming to the realization of just how much evil there is in the universe, and at the same time, Supergirl can't do anything to help her come to that realization apart from just sitting there and comforting her. It's spectacularly written, and the art and the panel layout it's fucking perfect. It's just perfect. So we move on to chapter 4, where we find this little baby alien creature. Scared and frightened, and it is picked up by Kara and Ruthie, and this is basically the two of them following these brigands that Krem of the Yellow Hills is now a part of. And these brigands just basically go around and just destroy and decimate everyone. So this is them kind of following that path. They come to visit this alien that has kind of been dismembered, and he tells the story of how Krem killed his best friend and dismembered him and left him to die. And then there's this other alien that has to dig all of these graves. So Supergirl basically helps him and finds his dead daughter so that he can mourn at her grave. And then we see her with this giant alien, and the alien basically doesn't know how to get her anger out, so Supergirl just lets this giant alien, punch the crap out of her just to get her frustrations out. So it's clear that she's just they're following this path to find Krem of the Yellow Hills, but at the same time, Supergirl is showing massive empathy in trying to help these aliens out. She doesn't want Ruthie to go into this building because of what's in there, and Ruthie's pissed off, but ultimately it is for the best. And then we see them basically continuing on their mission, just trying to find this guy, and Supergirl, not being able to deal with the atrocities that have been caused by these brigands, ends up flying into a yellow sun just to get her rage and anger and anguish out. A really fantastically written scene. And then she comes back to Ruthie, and they decide to go on. Now, it will come out in a few issues, but it must be noted that Supergirl has actually told Ruthie her life story. Now, this narration is all written from the point of view of an elder Ruthie, which you will see much later on. The lake, the trees, and the monsters. So here we have Krem of the Yellow Hills. And what he actually has is this magic orb that will transport whoever it hits across the universe. Now, for those of you that don't know, Kryptonians are quite susceptible to magic. Those of you that watch Smallville, you will know this from season 4 of Smallville. You'll also know this from various Superman villains like Mr. and Mrs. Pitlick and so on and so forth. So Krem uses this orb to transport Kara and Ruthie to a planet that has a green sun. This is bad. This means Supergirl is basically dying. She manages to get them away from these giant monsters, but she cannot handle this. She will not get any power until the green sun goes down and it becomes nighttime, which is like 8 hours away. So in the interim, Ruthie, in fact, has to protect her from all of these dinosaur-looking monsters and shit, which is pretty freaking cool. And then Supergirl uses her heat vision here to save Ruthie, but then passes out, and they talk, and this is where we get a lot of kind of backstory and shit. And then Supergirl gets her powers back and manages to fly them away from the planet. Now, this was just an issue dealing with the character of Ruthie and how much she has come through since the first issue, and how much Supergirl kind of relies on the people around her, even though she has all the powers of Superman. Superman relies on the people around him, and this is just a good way to show that Supergirl is kind of growing up. Remember in issue 1, she just turned 21 and was getting shit-faced. Now she's kind of coming into her own. It was a fantastic issue. Home, Family, and Refuge, Chapter 6. Okay, who do we have here? Could this be Comet, the super horse? Okay, so we get a little bit of kind of backstory here. They've found Krem. They are kind of going after him, and he threatens Supergirl with another one of those magic globes that transported her to the planet with the green sun. While we're getting the backstory of Kara, like this is the destruction of Krypton. So it's kind of interspersed through this issue. She realizes what he's going to do, so she has Comet the super horse. Now, you might think Comet the super horse is a dumb idea. Comet is actually a man who has been cursed to inhabit the body of a horse. But if you go back to, I believe it's the golden age of comics, it might be the golden age or the silver age. I'm going to say golden age because that was when all the weird fucking shit was going on. Comet was a centaur, and in the form of a man, he had a relationship with Supergirl. So basically, Supergirl was fucking her horse. I mean, comics don't get any better than that. But we have Comet, the super horse, and she uses him to ride, to kind of outrun this magical globe. And they ride almost to the end of the universe. All the while, we're getting this very poignant story about Kara being there while her mother dies of radiation poisoning. So what you get is this absolutely ridiculous story about Supergirl and Comet the Superhorse outrunning a magical globe, interspersed with the heartbreak of this Kryptonian city, Argo, which survived the destruction of Krypton at the expense of the people in it who are slowly dying from radiation poisoning. Now, some of you are going to go, that's fucking stupid. But no, you could have had one or the other. If you had the death of this Kryptonian city, it's literally heartbreaking. If you had Supergirl riding on a horse across the galaxy to outrun a magic globe, it's fucking stupid. You put them together and you get one hell of a freaking comic. I'm sorry, but it just works. So here we have Kara helping the people kind of hammer in these lead plates. Her father, who is Superman's uncle, realizes that the radiation can be shielded by lead, so they try and hammer in all these lead plates, and she works around the clock. And then we see Comet, Kara, Comet, and it just works. And it works, both plans actually work, however, not for long. So Kara's father decides, listen, I can make a rocket, I can save my daughter. And he makes a rocket from the lead, knowing full well that Argo is going to die because it's been breached. And in the interim, we get this story where Kara and Comet go to the ends of the universe, and the magical globe just goes, doesn't work. Then we see the rocket that her father sends her away in, and she asks why, and that's why. And then she returns back to the planet where Krem is, and basically is like, fuck you, buddy, as he fires the arrow at her. Okay, so here is Supergirl. They have gone to this planet where Comet and Ruthie are picking fruit, and they halve it. She gives him half of it, and Supergirl is going up against the pirates. All the while, we find out that they have Krem of the Yellow Hills taken hostage, and Ruthie wants to kill him, of course, naturally, because he killed her father. But Comet is not having any of that. Supergirl attacks the pirate ship, the brigand's ship, I should say, and is hit by a barrage of fire. And Ruthie is talking to Comet, saying, you know what? I'm not going to kill him. You don't have to worry about me. Comet, realizing something is going on with Supergirl, Ruthie says, listen, it's all good. I've got this covered here. Supergirl is falling to the planet, but she kind of regains her stamina and goes after the ship. Then we get the story of what actually happened to Ruthie's father. Now remember, the King's agent is sent out to find people that are unloyal to the King. And he tells Ruthie that he came to their farm and he spoke to her father. Her father offered him food and shelter for the evening. And his trick was to basically tell a joke that mocked the king by saying that the king had slept with his own sister or something along those lines. And Ruthie's father told him, fuck off with that shit. I am loyal to the king. The king is a good man. You're way out of line. Get off my land. And this guy, Krem, realized Ruthie's father was just a better person than he was, and that's why he killed him. He didn't kill him because he was unloyal to the king. He killed him because he's a fucking piece of shit. And he was like, your father was a better man than I could ever be. That's why I had to kill him. And Ruthie's like, what the fuck, you son of a bitch. In the meantime, Supergirl is just beating the shit out of everyone. Comet realizes that something's going on. Ruthie basically tells him, go and help Supergirl. I'll be fine here. Trust me. And we get Supergirl basically being captured by these brigands. And they know who she is and they know what kryptonite can do. So they are prepared, and Comet is like, oh, hells no. And Comet ends up flying up to help Supergirl, at which point Ruthie was like, I made a promise not to kill you to a horse. It's a fucking horse. Fuck that. And draws the sword. Krem is kind of prepared to die here while the aliens have, or the brigands I should say, have Supergirl in their sights. Comet comes flying in and basically smashes the shit out of them. However, Comet takes a blast, killing him, although he turns into a human briefly, but they fucking killed Comet the Super Horse, and fuck you for doing that. I've just got to say. Supergirl manages to kind of get free. She's pissed off. Ruthie releases Krem, and they basically fight. And Ruthie ends up kind of besting him. She cuts off his fingers, which I thought was pretty fucking hilarious. And he's kind of taunting her during this fight, and she's about to kill him, but she literally can't. Supergirl comes down. This is the man who was Comet the Super Horse. And she tells Ruthie that all of this whole thing, was a lesson for her. Crypto isn't dead. And does Ruthie want her to kill Krem? And Ruthie's like, I think I've learned my lesson. That's all fine. And they don't kill Krem. But in the future, Supergirl comes to an elderly Ruthie. Now, all of this has been narrated by an elderly Ruthie. And she comes to Ruthie, and Ruthie reunites with Crypto, because Crypto was fine the entire time. That was just a ruse that Supergirl played in order to get them to go on the hunt for Krem. And she basically says, the time is up now. Krem has been in the Phantom Zone. That is the Kryptonian prison. And she's like, where do you want this done? And elderly Ruthie is like, I found a spot, and it's the spot where he actually killed her father. Supergirl releases him from the prison, and we find out that he, I'm not going to say rehabilitated, but he does beg for his life, and he begs forgiveness for the evils that he's done to Ruthie. and Ruthie ultimately uses the sword to kill him, and Supergirl just walks away. And again, you can see the red sun, so Supergirl doesn't have any powers in this world with Krypto the Superdog. So this is a absolutely fantastic story of revenge, redemption, knowing your limits, and hindsight, just realizing in hindsight what you did right and what you did wrong. And at the same time, it shows you the growth of the character of Supergirl. So I am so excited that this is going to be what the new James Gunn Supergirl film is loosely based on, because I think Tom King did a spectacular job writing this comic. Of course, this is the deluxe edition, so we get the variant cover gallery, which I always love. I think they are freaking great. Then we get some sketchbook art, which is always cool. Thumbnails. Variant cover sketches. And this is one thing I really appreciate. An alternative script for issue 6. Just to show you kind of what it could have been like. And then the biographies. So that is Supergirl, the Woman of Tomorrow, or Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, I should say. Tom King, Bilquis Everly, and Matheus Lopes. I hope I'm not butchering those names. Absolutely loved it. I am really enjoying finding these kind of graphic novels that I usually wouldn't go for. I usually wouldn't read them. At the moment, I'm kind of going back and finding a lot of older stuff, building up a bit of an ostentatious collection, if I do say so myself. But this was a lot of fun. Now, I will be perfectly honest with you. I read the first 2 issues in this collection, and I was not really impressed. To me, it seemed a little lackluster. So I put the book down and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to it, and I reread them. And in rereading them, I began to appreciate what Tom King was doing with the character. And it almost makes that post-credit scene in the Superman film, it just cracks me up to no end. This is one of the best. I'm not gonna say it's in the top 10. I know a lot of Plaguelandians get pissed off when I start ranking shit, but this is one of the best DC standalone graphic novels exploring a character that I've read. And this isn't. I don't believe this is an Elseworlds. I believe this is canon. I do have to check on that. But it was fantastic. And I highly recommend going out and grabbing a copy of this and reading it for yourself. Because as you could see, there was a lot of the narration by Ruthie that I left out. That plays a huge part in this story. I was just giving you what you could see on the page. you're not getting the inner thoughts and the monologue that Ruthie is doing through the course of this. Now, with that said, none of the narration is told from the point of view of Supergirl. It is all told from the point of view of this secondary character whose father has been murdered and she is out for revenge. And that, to me, makes this a standout graphic novel. So take that as you will. I'm going to leave it here for all you little Playgladians. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Just know there are a ton more graphic novel reviews coming out, book reviews coming out, and there is going to be a special video. I will probably be uploading it on Sunday if I can. That is going to blow your fragile little minds, and it's probably going to make me lose my shit. So with that said, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. But most of all, read a fucking book, people.